What is your role and what does school administration mean to you?
I am a student in primary education in Italy, and for me, school administration means probably the principal, the head of the teachers, and the secretary office, and more like offices, and who's running the school as like an institution.
So I'm a professor in inclusive education and I'm active in teacher training. And if I think of school administration, then I think of local school authorities that are my first partners in thinking of teacher training and in imagining what is needed for teacher training.
My job role was for 20 years being a professor for inclusive education at a German university with the main subject of teacher education. So I was quite connected to school administration, and I think first about the problem to change the way of working with schools, coming away from a hierarchical thinking and acting to a more partnership-orientated working.
I'm an educational researcher in the discipline of curriculum and instruction. School administration means for me something like, when we talk about schools, they are let's say complex social structures in communities, and they have different types of activities happening inside them. And we need to organize these things to, let's say, help people to have a better life experience there, better learning experiences there. So school administration means for me that to harmonize these things, this social structure, this complex social structure in a harmonious way for me.
I'm a business studies and outdoor education teacher in an inner city school in Dublin. And in terms of school administration, for me, it's all the cogs that allow that school to operate in order to deliver a safe education to all of the stakeholders in there. So you're talking about the students, we include the parents, we include any guardians, and as well as that, all of the staff to improve and continue learning.
What does an inclusive school administration mean to you?
An inclusive school administration to me would mean probably when all the actors of the school are involved, and that would mean also like teachers, substitute teachers, the cleaning staff, and eventually even like students.
I think school administration, so again thinking of local school authorities here, I think of persons that are really committed in trying to understand which are the inequalities that students in our local regions experience and that are committed in trying to overcome them.
When we consider schools as complex structures, they have different dimensions to be considered, and these dimensions are all about human beings, and they have different types of needs, or let's say interests, or let's say skills. And inclusive school administration means for me to bring these, let's say, differences in a, let's say, whole that includes all the aspects that are already there in a visible way. So it makes it possible to people to say their voices, let's say, to have their voices in learning environments and to work together in a participatory way.
Inclusive school administration means that there are lots of people involved in administrative questions, and it's not, I'm thinking now about the school itself, and it's not just one person who's the boss and who decides everything, but it's very much connected to school development, and there are lots of people involved in that, and there is a high level of participation of students first, almost most important, parents, teachers, staff, and it's a common process of the whole school community, and it should be connected to the whole school community.
Inclusive school administration to me would be one that allows everybody a voice, an opinion and input into the delivery of education, the development of policies, in order to improve the entire school community. So we'd be creating a forum where everybody is heard regardless of their role in that school.
As we have just heard from our colleagues, there can be different perspectives and interpretations of what school administration is, depending on the size of the school, the location, and student demographics. The administration in your school may be different. However, in this chapter, we consider school administration to cover the practical aspects of running a school. This could include areas such as planning and organising of classes, teaching schedules and student timetables, decision making, allocating of resources for different students, departments or equipment, curriculum design, budgeting, and the training and continuous professional development of staff. We consider an inclusive school administration to be a community of actors working together and sharing the responsibility needed to enable a positive school environment. Why is an inclusive school administration important?
Okay, so we think that it's important to have an inclusive school administration for two main reasons. So firstly, all actors in school includes students, teachers, head teachers, parents, also secretaries and caretakers and further actors are affected by the consequences of school administration every day. So, for example, students are impacted by nearly every decision in school, but they often don't feel included in a lot of decision-making processes, especially when it comes to aspects of organization such as curriculum design. So, a second example are school development processes. A lot of schools where school development processes are planned, they are planned and organized by a specific group that includes the head of the school and some other teachers. Parents and students and also other actors in school are not comprehensively included. So we think it's important to create an environment where all actors feel seen, valued, empowered and included. So the second reason we find important is that aspects of school administration should represent and support the interests of all school actors. So if we don't include them in processes themselves, then we cannot ensure that the consequences work for them and work for the whole school. When I worked as a teacher in a school, the head teacher and the deputy head teacher decided to change the structure of the timetable for all classes. And they didn't discuss it with the students and with the teachers. And the consequence was that it didn't fit anymore with the needs of the students in school. And so after some time, they had to change it back. Another example is one teacher told me, a teacher from another school, he told me that the students aren't allowed to use their smartphones during the day. And even the teachers and also the students don't know who decided this. And they weren't included in the decision-making process about that. And the rule doesn't fit anymore with the needs of the students and also the teachers, because the teachers tells us so their students and sometimes that they have to use their smartphones to do some research in lessons. And so also the students use their smartphones during the breaks. So the rule doesn't fit anymore, and we can see in this example that sometimes it's necessary to change the rules after some time and to do it in collaboration with all of the relevant actors.
How can we achieve a more inclusive school administration?
That's such a great question. So we believe that the importance of an inclusive school administration for all actors within a school community cannot be overemphasized, from teachers and students to parents, secretaries, teaching assistants, and school staff. As applicable in your context, inclusivity is vital for success and well-being of everyone involved. We strongly believe that to achieve an inclusive school administration, we propose a framework that encompasses key elements such as self-reflection, relationship building, open dialogue, awareness development, and continuous learning. So self-reflection is a powerful tool for all educational actors. By engaging in introspection, we can identify our own biases, assumptions, and areas for growth. We also believe that it is crucial to examine our personal beliefs, our practices, and policies to ensure that they align with the principles of inclusivity. For example, we can ask ourselves questions such as, our teaching materials and are they representative of the students within our classrooms? Are our classroom practices inclusive of all learners? Are we collaborating with other actors in decision-making processes? We believe self-reflection helps us become more aware of our strengths and areas that we can improve.
And like you say, this self-reflection and awareness will then lead to building stronger relationships, which is vital for promoting inclusivity. By nurturing positive relationships among teachers, students, parents and staff, we create a sense of belonging and trust. This can be achieved through activities such as team building exercises, mentorship programs, and activities even outside the school environment, or holding parent engagement workshops. This can help to strengthen relationships and provide understanding and appreciation of diverse culture and backgrounds. An example that I have from my experience of my department's work with newly arrived immigrants in Sweden is that I work with providing support for students when they arrive in Sweden in the Swedish school system, and acknowledging and recognising what they bring with them in terms of diversity. So we actively engage with parents and students and their varying needs and backgrounds in order to make them feel included and part of our community.
In addition to relationship building, open dialogue is also an essential key element of achieving an inclusive school administration, and this involves creating open spaces for meaningful conversations where diverse perspectives are welcomed and respected. These dialogues can take place, for example, during staff meetings, parent-teacher conferences, teachers' continuous professional development, and community forums. For instance, we can organize regular roundtable discussions where teachers, students, parents, and staff can openly share their experiences, concerns, and suggestions. We believe that by actively listening and valuing each voice, we can organize an inclusive culture that embraces collaboration and collective decision-making. Open dialogue is very crucial. For example, findings from my PhD study revealed that fear acts as a significant hindrance to critical and open dialogue on cultural diversity and inclusivity among beginning teachers in Ireland. So it is important that we have an open dialogue where we can break through the fear barrier and encourage meaningful and transformative conversations that will lead to better understanding and greater inclusivity for all.
This plays a significant role in achieving an inclusive school administration. We need to invest in development opportunities for all actors that enhance cultural competence, equity, literacy, and inclusive teaching practices. This can include workshops, seminars, or guest speakers, including parents and actors from the wider community, who provide insights into diverse perspectives and experiences. By increasing awareness, we can challenge biases, dismantle stereotypes, and create a more inclusive learning environment for our students. We should encourage a culture of lifelong learning among all actors. As an educator, I am open and willing to developing my knowledge and having a growth mindset so I can meet the needs of my students. I also promote training courses to my colleagues and take responsibility in sourcing opportunities for further training and development.
So as the case study shows us, it's important to include everyone and all actors in inclusive school administration, and inclusive school administration is an ongoing process that is never complete.
We can't expect to make huge changes overnight, and it's important to recognise that small steps can make a difference, whether that's as a teacher in the classroom, being a parent or a student, or a member of the school staff.
In closing, we need to avoid a microwave approach towards achieving an inclusive school administration. We believe that, as we've just mentioned, the process takes time, a commitment to a lifelong, investment in achieving a more inclusive school administration where every actors feel valued, included, and acknowledged in decision-making processes.